Welcome back to our last session of Home Runs for Parents. We're so excited you're back with us. My name is Heather Kyle Harmon. So we've got some great people here to give you some wonderful information. So we'll start off with Sarah Kite.
Hello, I'm Sarah Kite and I work in McMinn County.
All right, Lisa.
I'm Lisa McMahon and I work in Roane County.
Sarah Vaden.
I'm Sarah Vaden from Jefferson County.
And Connie.
And I'm Connie Greiner and I'm in Campbell County.
All right, very good. We're going to jump right in today. We have some really great information to share with you all. So this is session 5, and we're going to be talking about team spirit. So, you know, in the sports world, there's a lot of handshakes, high fives, fist bumps, and things like that, where team members and coaches show affection and excitement for the game and for each other. So that's kind of our goal as a family too, is to make sure that we are doing all of those things. And we're going to talk about that in here. Don't lose your touch. So a lot of this is going to be about physical touch and the importance of that physical touch between a parent and a child, or a caregiver and a child, just for that sense of well-being and comfort and all those things. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about your child's AllStar Card. So we'll explain what that is. And then we're going to kind of close with, how is your team spirit? So how are you all as a family at showing your family's team spirit? So we're going to go through all that in our lesson today. So we want to start off by talking about handshakes, high fives, and fist bumps. So, you know, like I said before, my son plays basketball, so we're kind of in the basketball world. And there's a lot of high fives and fist bumps and things like that. But there's also one of the ways that they show affection is the smack on the butt. I don't know, they do it. It's part of the sports world. But it's just a fun way that they kind of show, you know, excitement for the game and a good play and something going on. So this just kind of talks about what are some expressions of touch that sports teams use to show their sense of bond, their enthusiasm, and their kudos to each other. So if you want to take just a second to think about that, you know, when you've been at games or your kids have played games, what are some things that you've seen how teams have shown expressions of touch to each other? So they can be things like we talked about, the high fives, fist bumps, a full body bump, you know, when they get the whole body in there, hugs, tackle each other. That's a big one. Pats on the butt, like we said, ritual handshakes. So, you know, my son's team really has some very specific ritual handshakes with each other. And that can be a cool way to bond with your kids too, is coming up with a handshake for each kid. So how do expressions of touch benefit these team members? So, you know, if you can think about just when someone touches you in an affectionate way, in an excited way, you know, if something exciting happens and you grab hands and you jump up and down together, it's just such a great feeling of excitement for whatever's going on. So, you know, these expressions of touch can really increase team cohesion. You know, personalized handshakes, it's kind of specific to that person. It can make your children feel really special, appreciated, loved. You know, my parent has taken the time to come up with this with me. That can result in closer bonds, feelings of having a secret code between two members of the team or two family members. It can really bond that special relationship. You know, excitement, it seems to be a natural reaction to positive experiences, expressions of congratulations and praise. So just making sure when our family members do something really great, even if it's not sports related, they get an A on their report card. They even if they get a C on something that they have worked so hard for, and they have, you know, they've really worked hard for it, then making sure that we're doing those expressions of physical touch, building up that excitement as a family and as a team. So how does a parent's expression of loving touch impact and benefit your children? So, I mean, you can think just how our kids react when we give them that excited physical touch. It makes family members feel loved, supported, valued, comforted, which is really important, that good hug, emotional support. In our family, we call it emotional first aid. A lot of times when something's happened, our kids in our family, we don't need immediate solutions. A lot of times we just need that emotional first aid, that recognition that, oh, I'm hurt, I'm scared, I'm whatever the feeling is, and giving that emotional first aid. And that a lot of times comes from that loving touch. So you can feel comforted, encouraged, praised. It also provides a really good role model for our kids in expressing love and affection as they grow and have relationships of their own, have children of their own. What are those positive ways that we can lovingly touch someone that will impact them? And then thinking about how our own parents expressed affection for us, and did it make you feel loved when you were growing up? How has that affected you if you didn't have much touch, or if you did have a lot of touch? And how has it affected the way that you relate to your own children? So these are things that we need to think about. I've learned as a parent and growing up, you either come from a real touchy-feely family or you don't. So my husband did not come from a touchy-feely family at all. And my family is very affectionate. The first time my parents met my husband, they hugged him and he was like, oh, what do I know what to do with this? But these are learned behaviors. You can learn to be affectionate. And he just hugs them. It's part of everyday life now. And he's become a lot more affectionate. So how we grew up really affects how we are with our own children, but making sure that we have that conscious thought process. Did I like how I grew up? And do I want to do things differently or the same with my own children? So, just making sure that we are thinking through, this is an activity that we would do in the in-person class, and it has us think through, what are some of the ways that your parents showed you love and affection and handled their emotions, and what of those things would you like to repeat with your own children? So thinking back to our childhood, how did our parents show affection? How did they show their emotions? Do we want to repeat that or not repeat that? So what are some ways that your parents showed you love and affection and handled these emotions? And what of those would you like to not repeat? I think I've said this before, but my son says having a 10 reaction to a 1 event. So that's, handling those emotional outbursts, those emotions that we have. How did you grow up in your household? Was there a lot of 10 reactions to 1 events? Do we want to carry that on with our own families, or do we want to stop that behavior and do something different? And then what are some ways that you want to show love and affection and handle your emotions that you didn't see from your parents, but learned somewhere else? So a lot of us, when we were growing up, had teachers, Sunday school teachers, ministers, positive role models, mentors, lots of people in our life that taught us things that we carried with us, both good and bad. But what are some of those things that we learned from our mentors, from people growing up, not necessarily our parents, that we want to make sure we continue with our own children? So think about some of those. Sometimes it's good just to have those conscious thoughts, those conscious, okay, I'm going to think through this and make sure I repeat these good patterns and I stop these bad patterns and don't continue them into my own family. All right, so next we have Sarah.
All right, so don't lose your touch. This Our Home Runs pulls together a lot of components of parenting. This last day about touching the hand and heart is so valuable. And there's been so much research on the importance of physical touch in our families and why. Why do I need to give my kids a hug? And how often should I give my kids a hug? And will this help them long term? So Sarah Vade and I are going to give you 5 goals for parents loving touch. And this first one, I just want you to think what the missing word is. And then I'll explain more. So understand the emotional, physical, psychological, and maybe the answer, physical health benefits. So touch is more than just a hug. It actually is beneficial to your kids emotionally, psychologically, and has physical health benefits. It also is important for you as a parent. You also have these benefits. But there's been a lot of research and studies on the physical health. And Harry Harlow is a great researcher. Many studies, a lot of series of studies. If you've heard of his studies, what he did was take a baby primate, a monkey. When the monkey was born, he separated the monkey from its mother. And he wanted to study what would happen if this baby monkey grew up without the physical touch of his mother. The monkey was provided basic needs like, food and whatnot, and was given a cloth mother, surrogate mother. And so whenever it was hungry, it would just go and it would drink the bottle. And then if there was something that scared the monkey, like a loud noise, it would scurry over to the cloth monkey and cling on. And through all these series of studies that Harry Harlow did, he learned that it's our basic human need to have this nurture, this touch. And without it, the study continued on, and without it, the monkey developed abnormal emotional needs. It was socially awkward, depressed, and unable to give affectionate normally. So much negativity happened when this baby didn't get what it needed, which was touch. And think about when your children were newborns, how frequently did you hug and cuddle? And as a parent, if your child's crying, it's natural to pick them up and hold them. It's natural for us to react that way. And it's natural for them to desire that cuddle with us. That's just how we're created. The healthy, affectionate touch of the hand, touch of the heart is so valuable. A lot of research has been done in this area, numerous studies, and they affirm the same thing, the benefits of touch to the physical health of babies. And as you get older into adulthood, it's so beneficial. Here's another one I just want to point out to you. The Journal of Pediatrics reports that the skin-to-skin contact. So when you have your newborn baby and your diapering baby, and then they start screaming and crying, hold them to your skin. That skin-to-skin touch for as little as 3 hours a day can help reduce the infant crying by 43%. If you know any new parents out there, take notes on this because it's so valuable to know how you can help those kids to calm down. It's just a natural way that they can get their calm. Also, that 3 hours or less of skin-to-skin contact can help infants fall asleep easier and for longer periods of time. They're well rested, they're calm, they're relaxed. They have that bond and that trust to know that if they have a need, that parent, that caregiver will come to them. Also can help a baby's digestive system mature, which helps them to absorb more nutrition and decrease the chance of infection, which is amazing. There's a true story. It's called Jamie's Story, Loving Touch. And this mother, Kate, she had a prematurely born son. He was a little 2-pound, 3-ounce baby. And when he was born, the doctors had told her that he was dead. And so she wanted to just hold him and just grieve and say her goodbyes. So she just rubbed his little back and spoke soothing words to him. And after about 5 minutes, she just drew him close. She took off her hospital gown. Her husband, cuddled with that baby, and they were just skin to skin. But after 5 minutes, baby Jamie moved. And they called the doctor back in, and they assured her, no, baby Jamie is no longer here. It's just a reflex part of the goodbye process. Well, she just continued to say her goodbyes, and she said that baby Jamie had gasped for air while she was holding him. And they sent for the doctors again, and the doctors were like, no, this couple's just in denial. It's hard to say goodbye. After 2 hours of skin-to-skin contact, something amazing happened. Baby Jamie opened his eyes. And Kate and her husband again sent for the doctor, and the doctor came in, and when she pulled baby Jamie off her chest, he started waving his arms and was trying to cry, and the doctors nearly passed out. And Jamie's now 4 years old, With his family, he and his twin sister are developmentally on track. And this practice that Jamie's mom believed saved his life is called Kangaroo Care or Skin to Skin. And this couple lives in Australia, and in their country, they found that the preemie mortality rate has dropped from 70% to 30% by this kangaroo skin to skin practice. So we just need to choose to nurture. That's our choice as parents, as caregivers, to nurture our kids and to really put that value back into that healthy physical touch, to give them hugs, to rub their hair, to hold their hand. Think about a little kid that's, 2 or 3, and maybe they're out in public, you're going through a busy town. It's natural for them to reach out and grab our hand. That's their security, that's their trust, that bond you have. If you have a thunderstorm and your kids wake up crying, it's natural for them to run to you and just want you to hold them. I think about a teenager who's going through something at school or a social thing that's they're dealing with. It's natural for them just want you to sit there and just hold them and just for you to listen, just for you to be present. The touch of the hand and heart, it goes beyond just the hugs, but that physical touch has so many benefits. So you can go to YouTube, you can Google Harry Harlow and Jamie's story, and you can watch these stories in more detail. Harry Harlow's study, the YouTube video is amazing just to see the whole study and how we are designed. And Jamie's story, just the amazing benefit of touch and how that, that little baby within 5 hours was gasping for air. It's beautiful. The second goal here for parents and touch would be what? Blank your kids often. Hug them often. Someone has, I think it was in our healthy relationship program, that you want to try to give your family, your kids, your spouse, 6-second hugs a day. Can you do that? How fast is that hug? Or is it just in the morning as you're running after school because that's just become a habit? Can you hug them more often? Sometimes I'll just be in the kitchen and I'll be like, I'll call my kid's name because I forgot their shoes and they're in my way. Or trying to make dinner and all their dishes from breakfast are in the way. And I'm like, come get your stuff. And so sometimes after I've learned this, I'm more intentional, but sometimes I'll call them and be like, hey, come in the kitchen. And they'll come running in the kitchen thinking they're supposed to get like their shoes or they've got their backpack on the floor. And I'll just give them a big 6-second hug. I'm like, I just love you. And they'll look at me and smile like, my mom, Well, that's become like a habit of ours, just these random 6-second hugs. And now I'll be in the kitchen cooking dinner and they'll just pass through and they'll hug my little leg, give me a hug just out of the blue. And it just so warms my heart as a parent. So don't devalue this touch. Don't lose your touch. It's so important. Hopefully after today, maybe you can have some family goals as parents of how you want to hug and show your kids love. I do challenge you to do the 6-second hugs a day. If you're married, do it with your spouse too, but don't lose that touch. It's so meaningful to your children, so bonding. All right, I'll let Sarah Vaden lead you through these last goals for touch.
Okay, not enough can be said about the hugs because I did not come from a hugging family. And then when I married, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had to hug me and kiss me all the time. And it was just like, this is so strange. And now I have turned into my former mother-in-law. So the hugging works. Even if you start at age 22 getting your hugs, then you still desire those hugs. And the next thing you want to do is you want to tell them you love them a lot. Now, some of us have the opportunity to live with our kids all the time. Some of us have to share them with a former spouse, but you can't say I love you enough. Now, are we going to call them and bug them every hour when they're at the other parent's house? No. Can we send a short text? Can we have a 5 or 10 minute call in the afternoons on the days that you don't have them to say I love you? Sure you can. Now to do that, you're going to have to be cooperative with the other parent because you're going to want the other parent to do the same thing because you'll be loving them regardless if you love their other parent. Okay, so keep that in mind. But if you're both in the home, then the I love you should be going on all the time. For those kids to see how natural that is, they need to see their parents saying I love you back and forth to each other. So it's not a thing that stops the day you're 18 years old. They need to see that as a thing when you're talking to your mother and she's 75 years old and you're 55 years old, you need to be saying, I love you. One, because you love them, but two, you want to set an example for your kids of the warmth of those words. The next thing is how to show affection in different ways. So let's say that they open up the lunchbox and they've just bombed a spelling test and it's second grade and they just get a little red heart. I had lots of little red hearts cut out that I would put in their lunchbox, or I would have it in their spelling book that they would open up and try to cram for before that spelling test. So it's just a little heart. That way, if it fell out, it wasn't embarrassing. People weren't kidding you because your mama was sending you little love notes. And then sometimes you just flat out did. I really appreciate what you did yesterday, helping me, pick up all the toys and get the room straight. All kinds of little affectionate notes that you can write. Other ways that you might show affection is you might pull that kid to the side and you might say, hey, how about if you and I sneak out and go get an ice cream? So you've already worked it out with dad. He's watching the other kids. And you and that kid just go off and have some ice cream. Can you dip the ice cream home? Yeah. Does it taste as good? Yeah. Did you get that time with mama or daddy by yourself? There's where the affection comes in. So spread that affection as much as you can. And when I say never stop, once again, I'm talking about the 55-year-old calling their 75-year-old mother and saying, I love you. I'm talking about that. Now I'll get emotional, but I had a 19-year-old that had a problem and he sat on mama's lap. And all you took was the hug to make things right. So never stop hugging and loving your kids. Okay, I'm going to turn it over because I'm crying now.
All right, so now we're going to work on our stat sheet. So each of your children should have their own individual stat sheet. And on the back side of the stat sheet at the very bottom is session 5. The session 5 stat sheet, session 5 on your stat sheet says write the most vital and meaningful ways that your child needs to show them affection. So we have touch of the hand and touch of the heart. So those can be, the touch of the hand can be a hug or whatever it is that your child responds to best and how you like to give them affection. And then touch of the heart, it could be different things such as snuggles, kisses, compliments, affirming words, saying I love you. All of those are emotional gifts that touch our children's hearts that we can pour into them, and then in turn they will be poured back into us. So if you can take a little time to finish your child's stat sheet for that, then that's just a good reminder and a good tool to remind us what we can do for them specifically as individual children and how they react well to praise or touch. And then one other activity to do is to take out your child's AllStar card and write their name in the left vertical column. So here is the one that I did for my daughter. Can't make it show up. So her name is Emma. So I wrote her name in bold down the left-hand side. And then I came up with a word that was specific to her that I did take time to really think about. And so for E, I put engaged. Emma is not engaged to be married, is engaged as in she takes the time. When she spends time with you, she engages with you. It's not that she's just there. She's very good about putting her time with someone that they are the center of her attention. So she engages with people. For M, I said she is mindful because she is very thoughtful of people's feelings and how she presents herself to them and how they are viewing anything that she's saying. So I thought that was a really great strength specific to Emma. The second M, I gave her the strength of modest because she is very modest and ladylike, and she promotes herself in a respectful way for her own well-being as a young lady. And that's something I'm very proud of. So I want to recognize that strength in her. And then for A, I think she's adorable. I think she's the cutest 21-year-old there ever was. So that's how I finished hers off. But this is called an acrostic, and it's fun to do with each one of your children. It's something I'm going to keep Emma's. I'm going to show her what I did. I'm probably going to take a picture and send it to her, but I'm going to keep it just so I can sit here at my desk and remember some of the special strengths that I just really love about my child, and I'm proud of her. But through this process, it just helps us remember when there are things that we, of course, Emma has some things that I get frustrated with sometimes, but these are the highlights of her, some of the highlights of her and her strengths. And it's just always good to remind us the things that we love and adore about our children. And Connie, you have an activity too?
I do. Thank you, Lisa. This next activity, it's called the Top 10 List. And what we'd like you to do is to create a top 10 list of what you'd like your children to remember about you after they're all grown up. So that when your kids are all grown and think back to their relationship with you, then what would you want to have stand out in their memories of you and how you related with them? So an example, I was just thinking about what Sarah had talked about, special treat, maybe going out for that ice cream or putting thank you notes, or that heart she was talking about too at school. Just some special things, write those down. And I think it's really, really important that you do this because you want your kids to think of you in a positive way, obviously, and you want them to feel really good about themselves. Another optional activity that you could do with your children would be for you to share those things you've done together, such as your parent-child pennant. Back when we did that a couple sessions ago, you can go over what your family motto is and emphasize your family's strengths, what you guys together. You can also review your tickets for Hall of Fame activities and what activities you'd like to do together as a family. And you can also go over what Lisa just explained just a little bit earlier in your child's AllStar cards. So all of these are really, really important to do. So before we wrap up session 5, I'd like us to think about how we're doing in connection of touch. And this refers to the ways you and your child or children show love, affection, and appreciation to each other. We call this your team spirit. So you look back at how your own parents showed you affection and expressed love, and you worked on how you'd like to be similar and different in your relationship with your children. And there's 5 goals that you learn for loving and affectionate touch. Learn for your loving and affectionate touch with your children. So a touch of the hand, a touch of the heart was used to determine the ways that each of your children would like you to relate to them. And you concluded with this session, or we're going to conclude this session with describing those top 10 ways you'd like your children to remember you after they're all grown. So just take a couple of minutes to think about your relationships with each of your kids and identify the base they feel like they're on the in this area of that team spirit. Find something you can do with each child and move to the next base. And then ask yourself, how are your family team talks going? Are they going? Hopefully they are after all of this. Are you striking out? Hopefully not, but if so, what's happening? What's actually going on, and discuss these things. Have you made it to first base? Have you reached the second base and even third base? And hopefully, have you made that home run? So think about what's something that you can promise to do to move from where you are to the next base in that important area of expressing love and affection to each other. These are so very important things for you and your children to do and to discuss with each other. So that's the replay for session 5. And I'm going to turn it over to Heather for our conclusion.
All right, so Connie just went over our team meetings, but just a review of how we kind of conduct those team meetings and make sure we have all of these concepts in it. So remember the no, so these are the concepts of the RAM. So the no is catching up. So what have we missed about each other this week? What do we need to know? What's going on? What's, what catching up? What's happened that we need to all be aware of? The next is part of trust, which is patch up. So what are some things that didn't get addressed that may need to be? What are some things, some apologies that maybe need to happen, or some things that need to be addressed? The next one is in rely, and that's dream up. So what do we want to do? What do we want to do as a family? What are some dreams that we have? What are some goals that we have? Let's talk about that and see how we can help each other achieve those. The commit to each other. So making sure that we're backing each other up. We're there for each other. We are attending each other's events, sporting events, ballet recitals, award ceremonies, whatever's going on, that we're really there. We're committed to each other and we're all showing up for each other. And then the last one that we just went over today is the touch. So making sure that we're building each other up. We're having our team handshakes, we're having hugs and affection, whatever that looks like for your family, but we are having that positive touch, hugs, cuddles, whatever needs to happen, ending those team meetings bonded as a family with that physical touch. So as we've gone through these 5 weeks, we really want to encourage you all to take this information and get it to help you to commit to actively managing your relationships with your kids, just like a coach does with his team, making sure that you're committed to actively work on those relationships. And using those RAM concepts that we talked about, know, trust, rely, commit, and touch, we're keeping those a part of our everyday lives with our kids. We also need to remember that life is going to naturally impact our relationships with our kids. It just is. It's going to change. It's going to ebb and flow. It's, and we have to roll with all of that. But the RAM really helps us look at, okay, my no is going down. I need to make sure that I am taking the time to talk with my kids. There are some nights that I lay down and think, okay, did I make full eye contact with all of my kids? Did I take a moment each day to look at them and to talk to them? And we live such busy lives, but making sure that when we notice one part going down, whether that's, being committed to each other, we start kind of not showing up for things with our family, making sure that we're aware of that and working to bring all of that back together. If our touch is lacking a little bit, being aware and bringing that back into the team meetings and into the family. So the RAM curriculum, all of this, the Home Run Parents, it provides a great picture to understand how the relationship is working, if it's been altered one way or the other. But what's really good is it gives you tools to go back and fix it, to go back and say, okay, our touch is lacking a little bit. We're going to rein this back in and we're going to start hugging each other again. We're going to start showing affection or showing up for each other or whatever those things are. So all of us want to just really thank you for taking the time to listen to this session with us and this whole curriculum. It has such wonderful information. Every time that I look through it, I gain something new as a parent. So I hope you all really took something home from this that you can use. It's really great information. So on the screen, you will see the link to the survey. It has information for this session, and it also has a survey. So I want to make sure everybody pays really good attention to the survey. Make sure you fill it out. Not only does it help us as educators to know what you liked, what worked, what didn't work, what we need to improve for next time, but also if you fill that out by August 31st, your name is put into a drawing for your county to win a family game prize pack. So that's really exciting. You can have some great games that you can bond together with your family, and you'll be entered into that drawing when you fill out your survey and get it sent into us. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you were here. We hoped you got as much information out of this as we did, and just thank you so much.